Now, if we take the statement, they don't cry, you will see that this is a quality that is generally associated with boys and men. They don't cry. We say for boys as well as for men, because when we see a boy crying, we will start making fun of him and say that like, oh, you are crying like a girl. So automatically he will stop crying, because somehow he will feel humiliated. He will think himself that, oh, I must not cry like a girl. Crying, the crying part, it is done by the girls only. Boys doesn't cry. So he will, after hearing this statement, somehow his thinking will be different, and he will start hiding his emotions also. As babies or children, where boys fall and hurt themselves, their parents and other family members often console them by saying, "Don't cry. You are a boy. Boys are brave. They don't cry." As children grow up, they start believing that boys do not cry, so that even if a boy feels like crying, he stops himself from doing so. From childhood onwards, our parents keep on telling us that you are a boy, you shouldn't cry like a girl, you are brave because you are a boy. So when he starts growing up, he starts believing that he is a boy and he should not cry like a girl. And even if he feels like crying also, he will start hiding his emotions because he is a boy. He also believes that crying is a sign of weakness. So even though both boys and girls sometimes want to cry, especially if they are angry or in pain, as they grow older, boys learn or teach themselves not to cry. If a grown-up boy cries, then he feels that others will either tease him or laugh at him, and so he stops himself from doing so in front of others. So from childhood onwards, he was told by his parents or by his relatives that you are a boy, so you shouldn't cry like a girl. It is also a sign of weakness. Crying is a sign of weakness, but you are a boy, you are brave, so you shouldn't cry. So this belief starts growing with him as he grows older and older. And when he cries in front of his friends also, his friends will start teasing him, and somehow he will be very hurt and he will feel embarrassment also. So he stops himself from crying or doing such things which he feels that he will be embarrassed in front of everybody for being a boy. Now, this is why boys are and this is how girls are. These are statements we have constantly accept without even thinking, and we start believing that each one of us must behave accordingly. We fit all boys and all girls into an image that society creates around us. See, all those are created by the society only. Society means it is a mixture of our friends, our families, our relatives, our neighbors. They are the one who fits in our mind that you are a boy and these are the things you have to do, and you are a girl, so these are the things you have to do. You cannot cook like a girl. Boys doesn't cook, or boys doesn't cry like a girl. And to girls also, there are some statements like you cannot play football because you are a girl, you cannot play cricket because you are a girl. So these are the statements which are created by the society, and this makes differences between the boys and the girls. And it keeps on increasing, this thinking keeps on increasing, this belief keeps on increasing in them. And if we want to change our way of living also, it is a society who will remind us that you are a boy or you are a girl, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. You can take other statements such as they are soft and gentle or they are well behaved and discuss how these are applied to girls. Do girls possess these qualities at birth, or do they learn such behavior from others? What do you think about girls who are not soft and gentle and those who are naughty? So there are statements also we saw, they are soft and gentle. Soft and gentle we often say for girls, isn't it? And they are well behaved. This statement is also for the girls. Why? A boy cannot be a soft and soft spoken. A boy cannot be well behaved. It is a society who makes these statements. And if we see a girl behaving like a boy, what will you think of that girl? How will you judge that girl? Think about this. When you see such types of behavior in a girl, and when you see a boy speaking in a very low voice, very soft, so how will you judge that boy? So find out and then try to write about them. When we fix people into one image, we create a stereotype. So stereotype means creating an image about the person. Okay, and it especially we can see on gender. When people say that those who belong to a particular country, religion, sex, race or economic background are stinky, lazy, criminal or dumb, they are using stereotypes. These are the stereotypes words which are being used for the people who belong from a particular country or religion. Like for example, if I take about the village people, okay, when a person from city visited a village, and he may find that the village people, they don't speak well, they live in a very small house, then their dressing is also very bad. So how will he judge? He will judge the way they are living, the way they are speaking, the way they are behaving, isn't it? They will say that, oh, village people are very stinky, they smell very bad. Then, oh, they belong from the low caste, so I will not talk to them. So these are the common stereotypes which we fit in our mind about the people around us. They are stinky and generous people everywhere, in every country, in every religion, in every group, whether rich or poor, male or female. And just because some people are like that, it is not fair to think that everyone will be same. So when we meet a person who belongs from other religion, we always think that this religion will be like this only, or this culture people will be like this only. We keep a negative impact about them. Negative thinking comes to our mind. We keep on judging, but it doesn't mean that because of one person everybody will be of same character, isn't it? It will be very unfair to them. We must not think in that way. Stereotype stops us from looking at each person as a unique individual with his or her own special qualities and skills that are different from others. They fit large numbers of people into only one pattern or type. Stereotypes affect all of us as they prevent us from doing certain things that we might otherwise be good at. So because of stereotypes, we always think about negative thinking about the people. We don't see the good thing about the people, and because of this reason it stops us from looking the uniqueness of the people, and this as a result impacts our whole life. And that's why we start discriminating about the religion, about the community from where the people come from, the background from where they belong. Okay. Next we have inequality and discriminations. Inequality. Now what is inequality? When people are start judging who belong from lower caste. Inequality means if the people who belong from lower caste are not given the equal rights after being the citizen of that country, that is known as inequality, and starts discriminating about the religion, about the color of the skin, then about the way they speak. We start discriminating. Discrimination happens when people act on their prejudice or stereotypes. See, because of prejudice and stereotypes, we start discriminating, isn't it? We keep a wrong judgment about the people. If you do something to put other people down, if you stop them from taking part in certain activities and taking up jobs, or stop them from living in certain neighborhoods, prevent them from taking water from the same well or hand pump, or not allow them to drink tea in the same cups or glasses as others, you are discriminating against them. So if you are doing such things, that means you are discriminating from others. Discrimination can take place because of several reasons. You probably recall from the previous chapter that Samir Ek and Samir Do were different from each other in many ways. In the previous chapter, we learned about Samir Ek and Samir Do. They belong from different religion, and they have many differences. Many reasons are there, like Samir Ek goes to school and Samir Do sells newspaper. He has never gone to school. They speak a different language, they belong from different community, from different religion. Okay, so from there we found discrimination. But the Samir Ek and Samir Do, they started making friendship with each other, rather being discriminating about each other. For example, they belong to different religion. This is aspect of diversity. However, this diversity can also be a source of discrimination. Groups of people who may speak a certain language, follow a particular religion, live in specific region, etc., may be discriminated against, as their customs or practices may be seen as inferior. Another difference between the two Samirs were in their economic background. Samir Do was poor. This difference, as you have read, either is not a form of diversity but of inequality. People who are poor do not have the resources or the money to meet their basic needs of food, clothing and shelter. They experience discriminations in offices, in hospitals, schools, etc., where they are treated badly because they are poor. So in the previous chapter, we also saw the story of Kantabai, isn't it? He was a domestic worker. But when it comes for casting the vote, everybody was standing in the same line where Kanta was also standing. But when it comes to other facilities, like when she went to the hospital, government hospital, she was made to stand in a line. Why? Because she was poor. She cannot afford to go to a private hospital to treat her, for the treatment of her daughter. So she has to go to the government hospital. And so here we find that inequality has given, inequality we can see in this matter. Some people may experience both kinds of discrimination. They are poor and they belong to groups whose culture is not valued. Tribals, some religions, groups and even particular regions are discriminated against for one or more of these reasons. In the following section, we will look at how a famous Indian was discriminated against. This will help us understand the ways in which caste was used to discriminate against a large number of people. So we will know more precisely about discrimination on this topic. On being discriminated against, people are engaged in different kinds of work like teaching, carpentry, pottery, weaving, fishing, farming, etc. to earn a livelihood. However, certain kinds of work are valued more than others. Activities like cleaning, washing, cutting hair, picking garbage are seen as tasks that are of less value, and people who do this work are seen as dirty or impure. This belief is an important aspect of the caste system. In the caste system, communities or groups of people were placed in a sort of ladder where each caste was either above or below the other. Those who placed themselves at the top of this ladder called themselves upper caste and saw themselves as superior. The groups who were placed at the bottom of the ladder were seen as unworthy and called untouchables. So, caste system. Caste system, when we start discriminating on the caste, higher caste, lower caste, rich, poor. Okay, the lower caste people cannot go and be a part of the higher caste people occasions, and the lower caste and the higher caste people, they will not go to the place of to their houses of lower caste. So here we can see the discriminations, and there is an example given, that ladder. Okay, this is a ladder. So the one who stands at the top of the ladder, they are known as the upper caste, and the one who stands at the bottom of the ladder, they are known as the lower caste. So in this way the example is given. And the lower caste people are also known as the untouchables. You cannot you cannot touch them. You cannot offer them a glass of water when they come to your house. And also there are many things which makes the discriminations in the higher caste and the lower caste. Caste rules were set which did not allow the so-called untouchables to take on work other than what they were meant to do. See, professions also matter. There are specific professions where only the lower caste people has to do, and the upper caste people are not supposed to do that work. Okay, like carpentry, pottery, then pottery, then cutting hair, and then picking up the garbage. So these are the works which are done by the lower caste people according to the society, and the higher caste people works are working in an office, they are teaching jobs, then also becoming scientists and all. So all this belong to the higher caste people. Okay, so in profession wise also we can see the discriminations of higher caste and lower caste. For example, some groups were forced to pick garbage and remove dead animals from the villages, but they were not allowed to enter the homes of the upper caste or take water from the village well or even enter temples. Their children could not sit next to children of other caste in school. Thus, upper caste acted in ways which did not give the so-called untouchables the same rights as they enjoyed. So in the schools also, the lower caste students were not allowed to sit with the upper caste students. The upper caste students were allowed to sit on the mat or on the chairs or desks, but the lower caste students were not allowed to sit on those desks or benches. They were told to sit in the floor. Dr. Bhim Rao Ambedkar, one of the greatest leaders of India, shares his first experience of caste-based discrimination, which took place in 1901, when he was just 9 years old. He had gone with his brothers and cousins to meet his father in Koregaon, which is now in Maharashtra. So Dr. Bhim Rao Ambedkar, he was the greatest leader, and he was the one who had stopped this caste discrimination. because why he has stopped this caste discrimination? Because of his own personal experience. He had his own personal experience which took place in 1901. Long did we wait, but no one turned up. An hour elapsed, and the station master came to inquire. He asked us for our tickets. We showed them to him. He asked us why we tarried. We told him that we were bound for Koregaon and that we were waiting for father or his servant to come, but that neither had turned up and that we did not know how to reach Koregaon. We were well-dressed children. From our dress or talk, no one could make out that we were children of the untouchables. Indeed, the station master was quite sure we were Brahmin children and was extremely touched at the plight in which he found us. As is usual among the Hindus, the station master asked us who we were. Without a moment's thought, I blurted out that we were Mahars. Mahar is one of the communities which were treated as untouchables in the Bombay Presidency. He was stunned. His face underwent a sudden change. We could see that he was overpowered by a strange feeling of repulsion. As soon as he heard my reply, he went away to his room and we stood where he were. 15 to 20 minutes elapsed. The sun was almost setting. Our father had not turned up, nor had he sent his servant, and now the station master had also left us. We were quite bewildered, and the joy and happiness which we felt at the beginning of the journey gave way to a feeling of extreme sadness. After a half an hour, the station master returned and asked us what we proposed to do. We said that if we could get a bullock cart on hire, we would go to Koregaon, and if it was not very far, we would like to stay straight away. There were many bullock carts plying for hire, but my reply to the station master that we were Mahars had gone round among the cartmen, and not one of them was prepared to suffer being polluted and to demean himself carrying passengers of the untouchable classes. We were prepared to pay double the fare, but we found that money did not work. The station master, who was negotiating on our behalf, stood silent, not knowing what to do. So this was the story of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, which took place in 1901, because he belonged from Mahas. And Mahar, it is one of the community which is treated as untouchables in Bombay. So he was looking for his father. When he went to the station with his brothers and cousins, the station master at first he asked them that for what purpose they have come here. And afterwards, after knowing the reason, after 15 to 20 minutes again, approximately, he came and asked that who are you and what is for what purpose you are here. So then Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, without any hesitation, he told that we are, first of all he told about his caste. Then after knowing the caste, the station master, he was very stunned, he was shocked, and he went back to his room. Because everybody knows that Mahas in Bombay are treated as untouchables, so nobody wants to talk to them. And they kept on waiting for their father. Now, After a few minutes, like after half an hour, again the station master he appeared, and then he approached, and then he asked them, so where are you supposed to go? They said that we want to go to a village, but then we want something for travel, like we need a bullock cart. There were a lot of bullock carts available near the station, but then nobody was ready to take them because they belong from lower caste. They were regarded as untouchables. So everybody kept silent, and then nobody helped them in reaching their destination. So from the story of Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, we can find out easily that they had money. After they had money, and then when they offered a double price of the for the bullock cart, but still people did not agree to take them because of being untouchable. And then we also saw that how the station master discriminated when he heard that they belong from the untouchable class. And also you can imagine that how Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar felt when he saw this type of situation when he was at this age. I think he was only 9 years old. So that impacted very badly in his life. It gave a very negative impact in his life. So this is a box, and inside the box it is about Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, born on 1891 and expired on 1956, is considered as a father of the Indian Constitution and is also the best known leader of the Dalits. So he was lower caste people, and lower caste people means belong from the Dalits, the untouchables. Dr. Ambedkar fought for the rights of the Dalit community. He was born into the Mahar caste, which was considered untouchable. The Mahars were poor, owned no land, and children born to them also had to do the work their parents did. They lived in spaces outside the main village and were not allowed to enter into the village. Dr. Ambedkar was the first person from his caste who completed his college education and went to England to become a lawyer. He encouraged Dalits to send their children to school and college. He also urged Dalits to take on different kinds of government jobs in order to move out of their caste system. He led many efforts of Dalits to gain entry into the temples. Later in life, he converted to Buddhism in his search for a religion that treated all members equally. Dr. Ambedkar believed that Dalits must fight the caste system and work towards a society based on respect not just for few but for all persons. Now, imagine how difficult it would be if people could not move easily from one place to another. How insulting and hurtful it is to have people move away, refuse to touch you or allow you to drink water from the same source as they do. This small incident shows how a small task of going from one place to another in a cart was not available to the children, even though they could pay the money. All the cartmen at the station refused to take the children. They acted in a discriminatory manner. So clearly, as this story shows us, caste-based discrimination is not only limited to preventing Dalits from undertaking certain economic activities, but it also denies them the respect and dignity given to others. Now, striving for equality, the struggle for equality. The struggle for freedom from British rule also included within it the struggle of large groups of people who not only fought against the British but also fought to be treated more equally. Dalit women, tribals, and peasants fought against the inequalities they experienced in their lives. As pointed out earlier, many Dalits organized themselves to gain entry into temples. Women demanded that they should have as much a right to education as men did. Peasants and tribals fought to release themselves from the grasp of the money lender and the high interest they were charged. When India became a nation in 1947, our leaders too were concerned about the different kinds of inequalities that existed. Those who wrote the Constitutions of India, a document that laid out the rules by which the nation would function, were aware of the ways in which discrimination had been practiced in the society and how people had struggled against this. Many leaders of these struggles, such as Dr. Ambedkar, had also fought for the rights of the Dalits. So these leaders set out a vision and goals in the constitution to ensure that all the people of India were considered equal. It was because of the Constitution of India. Constitution means a document in written which has the rules and regulations followed by the people as well as by the government. This quality or this equality of all persons is seen as a key value that unites us all as Indians. In the eye of government, each and everybody is equal. Everyone has equal rights and opportunities. Untouchability is seen as a crime and has been legally abolished by law. People are free to choose the kind of work they wish to do. Government jobs are open to all people. In addition, the Constitution also placed responsibility on the government to take specific steps to realize this right to equality for poor and other such marginal communities. The writers of the Constitution also said that respect for diversity was a significant element in ensuring equality. They felt that people must have the freedom to follow their religion, speak their language, celebrate their festival, and express themselves freely. They said that no one language, religion, or festival should become compulsory for all to follow. They said that the government must treat all religions equally. Therefore, India became a secular country where people of different religions and faiths have the freedom to practice and follow the religion without any fear of discrimination. This is seen as an important element of our unity, that we all live together and respect one another. Though these ideas are ancient in our constitution, this chapter points out that inequalities exist even today. Equality is a value that we have to keep striving for and not something which will happen automatically. People's struggles and positive actions by the government are necessary to make this a reality for all Indians. So this was a chapter about discriminations and diversity. Next time we will meet with a new topic. Till then, take care of yourself and thank you so much.